Hey guys, welcome back to the Car Couple Cast, which we're going to start calling C3 when we do enough of these things. As always, my name's Will, and you guys know Felicia, the person who giggles all the time. Perfect example. So, welcome back to the cast. Today we're going to be getting into topics that have been given to us by the people that we did a poll on our Instagram. So today is all about what is or what are good first cars. So obviously everybody has to pick their first car at some point. We're not talking about the project that you picked up for $200 that's still sitting in your garage, obviously. We're talking about the first vehicle that you're actually going to use. So Felicia, what was your first car not given to you? I wouldn't count something that you didn't really have a choice on.
So we're not talking about cars that like your parents gave you, or
I mean, you can say what that was.
Well, I didn't have one of those, but
yeah,
you gave me one.
Yes, I did. I mean, when I was growing up, my dad had a green Blazer, like a Chevy Blazer that he let me drive around to get to work and back and forth to school. But obviously, I wouldn't say that was my first car, my first vehicle. It was the first one that I was like responsible for. So
right, like you had to do the maintenance and upkeep and take care of the car.
Exactly. So if the car broke, it was on me to take care of the things that had to be taken care of in order for me to.
I would say that was your first car then.
Well, yeah, but that was my first car responsibility. Yeah. Which I'd actually say like a lot of kids don't even deal with these days. It kind of annoys me with especially in my job where I'm constantly dealing with kids all day. I have kids that their first car is like a really nice car, and then their parents are paying the insurance, and when they get into a ding or something like that, the parents paying for everything. I wouldn't even call that your first car at that point. That's just a tool that your parents are letting you use. Like I'd say the Blazer my dad let me use, that was like my first vehicle because I was like fully responsible for it. And obviously when I was a little bit further on, I spent money and actually got my own first car that I picked out. I did the insurance, the paperwork, and all the maintenance and stuff on that. But the Blazer was the first one that was like... So
the first car that you were responsible for was the Blazer.
Correct.
But the first car that was like your purchase and your responsibility.
Mitsubishi Eclipse GTS.
And how old were you when you got it?
I had been in college for 3 years at that point. So that would make me 20, like somewhere around, I think I was 20.
Were you in college for? Oh, okay.
Yeah, because I went to West Virginia, then I went to New York, and then I went back to West Virginia. So I was 19 as a freshman, 20 as a sophomore, but my birthday was in November. So yeah, I was 20 when I actually went and bought my first car. I still used the Blazer and stuff when I was at home, but in college I was like borrowing, or I was like getting rides from my friends to like train stations to get home. So
I do remember that. We were together. Yeah,
we were together when I actually bought that car. You were still in West Virginia, but like I drove back in my car. So yeah, Eclipse GTS, all white with black accents. So like the hood and the roof were black, and the trunk was black, but the sides were white. It was nice. Interesting story about that car is like I knew how to drive a stick shift from like general knowledge, but I had never owned one. And when I went to buy the car, it was 3 hours away. So I went and
it was a stick.
It was a stick. I knew it was though. So I went and bought the car 3 hours away and mastered driving a stick shift on the way home.
I mean, that's kind of, my story's not that as like that dramatic, but
traumatic. I mean, it wasn't traumatic. I mean, I had the concept of it because of riding motorcycles, so I knew how clutches and shifting was supposed to work. I just hadn't done it with my hands.
Yeah.
But yeah, my friend best friend and best man Joe drove me out there to go pick up the car, and then from there we had a 3-hour drive back, and the car was technically illegal too. So we drove 3 hours.
Oh wow!
We drove 3 hours on a borrowed plate to get it back, to get it home.
Days.
He was running defense though, so like I was driving in front of him, and he was driving like just directly behind me. So like if a cop was behind us, they wouldn't have like read my plate because he was so close to me.
Or he could have driven in front of you, give you a heads up.
Yeah, but that's
and then just like slow down.
I would have much rather them ran his plate and me had to stop for him than them run my plate and realize I couldn't drive. I wasn't supposed to be even driving the car. So that was our logic.
I'd finagle my way out of that.
That was our logic on how to best go about getting the car 3 hours back to the house.
Mm-hmm.
Side note: my dad was not too pleased about that.
I'm sure he wasn't.
But truthfully,
because you never told him, right?
I didn't tell him before.
Mm-hmm.
Side note: but interestingly, with me and my dad's relationship, though, like I told him, and he was like, he was like, you're an adult, so you're responsible for it. Mm-hmm. I was like, yes,
fair enough.
Exactly. And funny thing, like I think like 2 days later, he posted a picture of me working on my car on his Facebook page, and was like, "My son's working on under the hood of his own car."
Oh, yeah. That's a proud dad moment,
right? But that's what I'm saying. Like parents,
and that's how it should be. Like where you're talking about like rich parents buying their kids cars, and like the kid has absolutely no responsibility for that car. It doesn't even have to like fill it with gas. Like the
kid that has a Tesla and can't figure out how to put gas.
Oh well.
Yeah. No, like I have a student of mine who crashed her first car within like a month, and they got her another one, and she crashed that one, and then she was mad at her parents for them making her like take care of all the paperwork and stuff for her. They didn't even say like, we're not going to help you get it. They're like, no, you crashed it, now you need to deal with insurance, and she was losing her mind.
That's how you learn.
Yeah. So parents who are enabling their kids with expensive purchases as if that's what it's supposed to be. I'm not saying you can't do nice stuff for your kids, but you got to make sure that they're responsible at the same time. Like this girl has no concept of responsibility.
Well, and in the end, the parents are going to be screwing them up because the kids are going to have no idea what actually is necessary for living as an adult.
I know a lot of these people.
It's sad. It's so sad.
Yeah, but that was my first. So I mean, 2 first cars, like the Blazer, which I learned how to do a lot of maintenance stuff on, even though it was my dad's truck, but I was driving it, and then the Eclipse, which I learned how to do a lot of maintenance stuff on, but it was my responsibility as well, like fully mine.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, for me, my parents never gave me a car. I was always allowed to borrow the family's car as long as I asked. And when I had a job, like working over summer, where I had to drive, I had to drive to the college to work there. Like it was still my responsibility to put the gas in it because I was the one using the car. Like fortunately we had enough cars that it was like I wasn't using one of their main cars, but that was my first experience with having to take care of a. And
when you say you guys had enough cars, you had like a fleet.
We had a fleet of cars.
Fleet of vehicles.
Yeah, I don't know why. My dad just.
You guys, what was it, 3 Jeeps? When I met you guys
had a lot of Jeeps. Yeah, my family is a Jeep family.
And that's the thing, like it wasn't like the newest. It's not like you guys were like trading them out and getting like the newest one. They were like 2002s.
Yeah, they were always used cars. We weren't one of those families that bought new cars and just like had a bunch of new cars sitting around. It was just. I mean, there were 4 girls, 4 of us children, so we kind of needed enough cars so we could all like borrow a car.
At some point, yeah. And then, like, obviously you had siblings who had licenses and siblings who didn't. You guys kind of just had to do the tag along.
I think we all pretty much got our licenses as soon as we could. Yeah. But it wasn't like my family leading us on, like, oh, you need to go get your license. We need to do this. It was like your responsibility to go do that and to practice and pass the tests and stuff like that. So I think that was my first experience with being responsible for a car. But the first car was the one you actually bought for me.
That's right. Well, BMW 325 Ci.
325 Ci, the coupe.
Yeah.
It was a navy blue. It was a nice car. Definitely would not buy a Beamer again. Or have a Beamer again, because they are so expensive to fix and they're so difficult to fix. Like, if you're doing any type of work,
yeah, their engine layout is not beneficial for, or not really like conducive to somebody who wants to do a lot of their own work.
Right. A lot of the things, like, you had to special order replacement parts, or just even trying to figure out how to do the replacement yourself was such a hassle.
Yeah. And I mean, also being that it's a European car, like, a lot of the stuff is just marked up in price.
Yeah. I think I was reading an article that said that Beamers were the highest.
If not the highest, definitely one of the highest.
Yeah, in trying to get, like, replacements and stuff like that. So that was the first car that I didn't buy, but was more of my responsibility, because I had to keep up with the oil changes and the regular maintenance on it and all of those fun switching out things. I learned a lot. On that car, because I am a DIYer. I like to do it myself. So instead of taking it to a shop to get it done, I would take it upon myself to fix it in any places that I need to.
Or say, Will, can you break this bolt for me?
Okay, that you have to do for me, because unfortunately, I don't want to bust out my knuckles.
Yeah. So actually, you have a 3-car story, because you have the car from your family, the car I got you, and then there's the first car that you actually bought.
The first car I actually bought was a 2008 Mitsubishi Eclipse. I believe it's the GE. It's like the base.
Yeah, it's 4-cylinder automatic.
Yeah, automatic. But same thing with the Beamer. It had the what do they call it? Triponic
shifter.
Or something. Yeah. So started learning how to shift on that. I remember you showing me how to, like, properly shift without a clutch. And then. So I had that. How old was I when I got that?
I mean, you were probably.
Because we had the Beamer for probably 2, 3.
No, we didn't. We didn't
2
have,
years.
We didn't have it that long.
You had it when
we got rid of it.
We were finishing college.
The BMW.
Yeah, the Beamer.
Yeah, but I'm saying, like, we didn't have it. We didn't have it a year of me working at my new job, though. We got rid of it because.
Yeah, but we had it for a while.
It was, I would say, about a year and a half.
Okay.
I'd say about a year and a half, because we got it the summer before we went back to school, and got rid of it. It was about a year.
When you had started your new job.
It was about a year, because I got it over the summer. So it was summer to summer, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then we got rid of that to get you the Eclipse, which you picked out yourself.
Yes. It's my car.
Yeah.
My first car.
Yeah. So I mean, on the Eclipse, I was teaching you. With an automatic, I was teaching you how to shift, because it had the Triponic shifter on it, and all it was just getting you to understand, like, rev ranges and things like that.
Right, and I think it's a good learning tool for it, because when I actually started practicing on your G, that's when I could, like, put those things in play.
Speaking of which, we actually ended up selling that car to my little brother as his first car a few months ago. So
it's a good, nice first car.
It is. We never really had any trouble with that car. So happy birthday to Cohen. Oh, by the way, he just committed to college. I saw the post.
Oh yeah, where's he going?
I think he's going to Mansfield University.
Okay.
I can check really
Oh,
quick.
that's really exciting.
Yeah.
Good for him.
I'll look it up right now just to make sure I'm not misannouncing his announcement.
Because it's this summer or this fall he's going. That's super exciting.
That's really good.
Yeah, when he was asking me questions. Oh, and he was asking you questions about going into college. That's nice. And he'll have a car there, better than us. We didn't have cars when we went to college.
That is very, very true.
We would have been on like super cool status.
Yeah, I feel like anybody who shows up to school with a car,
everybody wants to be your friend.
It's immediately, yep, Mansfield University.
That is really exciting.
Congratulations, Cohen, for deciding where you're going to go.
Your little brother off to college.
He's not little anymore. I think he's got pounds on me now.
Yeah, he's grown a lot.
Yeah, you met him when he was tiny.
Yeah.
But yeah, as far as first cars go, we actually had a good set of first cars. We didn't really have any trouble with any of them, to be honest. The Beamer gave us like one engine issue, but other than that, not really anything. The Blazer gave me a whole lot of trouble, but I mean that was.
What year was that?
It was old. I don't remember. I have no idea.
Like 90 something.
It had to be 90 something.
Okay.
But I learned how to do a lot on that car because it broke so much.
Yeah.
I learned how to do a lot of things with radiators and coolant and engine diagnostic stuff.
I don't feel like that's was a good segue into your. Do you feel like that spurred your interest more into cars?
Definitely spurred my frustration. Well, but here's the thing. As a person who works on cars a lot, there's a certain joy that you get when something actually works properly.
Yes.
So,
yes.
Like, as car people who are primarily people that follow all the stuff we do, there's an innate fear when you start any car project. It doesn't matter how small it is.
I thought you were going to say when you start the car.
Well, definitely. But I'm just saying, like, let's go the big one. Let's go like a massive. Let's go with an engine swap. The time that it takes to go through all the engine swap stuff, and then that fear that you have when you're about to turn the key and you're like hoping that it actually starts.
Okay, I don't think I'd even go that big because a lot of people don't experience that.
That translates to everything you ever do with a car. Like, if you mess around with small wiring, you're hoping you didn't short out your car. Like, you can do something as simple as replace the radio, and you'll turn on the engine, and you're like, was that light on last time? So, like, you're always worried.
Okay, when you leave your car sitting in the garage for 3 weeks and then you turn the key and it doesn't turn on, like that, you didn't even do anything to it, and you're just
but that's common though. And the thing is, with that, like, you immediately understand what it was. But like, I wouldn't call that like a car project. Like, any little thing that you do in your car, the whole time you're hoping you don't screw something else up.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, it doesn't even have to be wiring. Like, I remember we did the video where we were replacing the seat brackets, and like every now and then, like, something didn't line up right, and we're just like, annoying. I really hope I don't have to do this whole thing again. You're just looking at it like, I hope I didn't put that in backwards. Hope these bolts line up, and it's nonstop just hoping that somehow by the end of this everything looks the way it's supposed to look. And that's
a lot of times it doesn't.
No. A lot of times it doesn't. But I feel like, as car enthusiasts in any way, or just a mechanic, that's what you sign up for. Like, just the frustration and the elation or the joy of when something actually happens the way it's supposed to. And for the people who are used to just like paying people money to do work to their car, you have no idea how happy people are when you can come pick up your car and it works. I promise you, it did not go the way you think it went. When they're like, hey, it should only take us an hour. I'll be back in 2 hours. They just finished it right like 5 minutes before you showed up, because they had to go back and do it again. That's how it almost always is. Like, we have car parts sitting around that we haven't put on yet because we just don't feel like
because it's like, oh, it should only take 15 minutes.
3 hours later.
Exactly.
And some of it's like simple too. Like, the type The type of thing where it's just like unbolt this and bolt this back on.
It's not that simple. It's literally not that simple.
But the thing is, it should be that simple. And like for me when I'm working on cars, the frustration is in the fact that something that I know is this simple, for whatever unforeseen thing, is now not this simple. This bolt will not line up.
It won't even come off.
I would have been done 20 minutes ago, but this bolt won't line up. So now I have to take it all off and see why it won't line up. Then you take the bolts off, hold everything up together to look at it, and everything's lined up perfectly. And then the second you start running bolts through, something's tilted again. It's maddening when you remember how simple something was supposed to be, and realistically how simple something is the second you started. Coilovers.
Oh gosh, don't get me started.
But your car was a perfect example. Oh. We ended up taking 3 weeks to do your suspension because...
I don't want to relive that horrible nightmare.
But we ended up taking like 3 weeks to do your suspension, which is...
I think it was more, but...
I've done that in fractions of it, like in a day.
Well, it was supposed to be easy. You take something out, you put something in.
Right, but like this part didn't line up, and then
we broke this.
Then this broke off, and then these ball joints wouldn't release, so we ended up just having to cut that off.
Cut it.
Like there was just
you strip something, you got to replace the whole thing.
Then you order that, and you have to wait a few days for that to show up. Like your suspension took us like a month.
At some point, we should like find that video that we did.
It was supposed to be a tutorial video, which we were just like, nobody's gonna believe us.
We started the video, and they were like, "Oh shoot, okay, let's just cut it," because we like, I don't know, I think we stripped something or.
Yeah, I think
a bolt broke.
I think like 5 times I came back. I was like, all right, guys. A few days later, we just replaced this thing. It showed up in the mail. All right, we're gonna move on to this thing now. Then, all right, cut the video because this is taking too long. We'll play it again in a second when we actually figure it out. Doesn't work. All right, guys, it's day 2. All right, guys, it's day 7, and I was just like, I'm done with this video. I don't even remember where we are anymore.
Well, and then we're like, okay, let's erase everything we did. Let's just start the video saying, all right, 3 weeks ago we started with this, and we were gonna go down the line. Oh gosh, I don't even know.
It didn't work at all.
It didn't work.
But again, we have the exact same platform, except for she has a 350 and I had the G35. I did my whole suspension overall in a day with me and 2 friends and a lift. And it didn't take anywhere near the amount of struggle or stress. And we actually did more with my suspension.
Pretty much so you did more with yours in one job.
But I replaced
with mine.
I replaced all the same parts. I replaced more parts than you.
I don't think so.
I did. Sway bars, end links, control arms, upper control arm, all the tie rods, all the strut bars. Like we did everything.
I did the strut bars after.
Right, but that's what
I did everything.
We did everything
in that one day.
I
know because I remember I got my coils and I was like, "Oh, babe, you want to come help me?" And you're like, "It's simple. You just lift it up to." I was like, "Okay, cool." No.
It was that simple. It was
100%
that simple. But the problem is, whenever you're doing any aftermarket stuff, something's bound to not line up.
Yeah.
But for us, the problem was every time something didn't work, in order for us to backtrack, we needed another part. Mm-hmm. And we kept having to order something and wait, and then I was just like, we're cutting everything off and replacing everything.
All of it. So the Blazer started you early.
Yes, the Blazer
started on the Blazer.
That's why I'm way more patient than you with car projects, because you just got here.
I'm just a few years in.
I've been here for years. You just got here. Like I go into projects now, I'm just like, however long it takes. Mm-hmm. If I have to go to work in 4 hours, I'm like, do I really want to start this 15-minute project?
Well, the nice thing is that you do have a spare car.
Yeah.
A spare car, as in, your daily driver.
Right.
That's important. When you have a car that you like to do projects on, have a daily driver, because a good amount of that time, that project car is not going to be ready to go.
Right. And for majority of the projects, it's always going to be that way. It doesn't matter how. I say that no matter what project you think you're about to do that's really simple, you should probably allocate the rest of that day.
And probably the next day.
Or at least have a backup vehicle so that in case, because here's the other thing, like you're bound to break something at some point.
Yeah.
And because you're bound to break something at some point, you should at least be prepared for the eventuality that may happen rather than say, it's going to go exactly the way it's supposed to. Like, I remember I took off my steering wheel to do something because I was going to replace it. I was like, I'm missing a part. I now have to put this whole steering wheel back together.
Putting things back together because you start it and you realize that you can't finish it because you don't have the stuff to finish it. Right. That's how it was whenever you only had your G. Mm-hmm. Before you had a daily driver car, it was like projects that you wanted to do. You had to either make sure that you would get it done in the amount of time or start it. It probably wasn't going to be finished. So let me backtrack and know I need actually this much amount of time to do it.
Yeah. When I only had one car, I was really careful about any project that I did.
Which I feel like a good amount of people are in that case, where your car, maybe it is a car that you like it is your daily driver, and I want to change the sound on it, or I want to do some modifications, where that's then becomes your project car.
I feel like there's a very small list of things you can safely do and assume that it's going to be easy. Wheels and tires, like that's just.
Okay, you can't even say that though, because on the Z.
Well, that's because you had hub adapters, so like most people aren't going to have that issue. What I'm saying is like buying a set of wheels and tires, and then just taking it to a place to have them balanced, and then you just go 4 lugs on or 5 lugs on and 5 lugs off. I'd say like that's like one of the few things that you can go, this should only take this much time, and if it doesn't work, I'll be fine. You just put your old tires back on.
Right. Unless you, like in my case, when we bought the car, it had spacers on it with actually the like it was a completely new set. Yeah,
you had the 350Z hub adapter, which was a wheel spacer, which was like an inch long, wider or 2 inches wide. It was definitely at least
it was at least an inch.
It was at least an inch off.
Yeah, I think it was an inch.
But it was also a conversion.
It was a conversion, yeah.
So it went from like the 350 to the BMW. Mm-hmm. So like you couldn't even trade out wheel, because I remember like you blew out a tire at one point, and you wanted to borrow mine because we should have had the same fitment, but like yours didn't fit. Mm-mm. And we didn't realize that till we took it off.
Mm-hmm. And I didn't realize until I took off the spacers that actually one of the bolts where the lug nuts would have gone was like stripped.
Yep.
Remember?
I do remember that.
I was like, oh my gosh.
But those are the things like as you buy a car, you don't even think to check because you're like, the wheels are clearly on the vehicle, so there shouldn't be anything wrong there.
Work, right?
Yeah, there shouldn't be. Like, I've never gone to buy a car and be like, all right, pop those tires off. Let me see what everything looks like under there. Like, I've never done it that way. Yeah. So, looking at it overall, there were so many weird things with your car once we got it home and started like, and it ran fine, but there were like just things that when we decided to go in and work on something, we would recognize that there was something else that somebody had already did. Like when your rear coils weren't a complete set.
Oh yeah, they forgot to put the
the bucket spring.
The bucket spring.
Yeah,
there
like
was no bucket spring.
Yeah, so like you had the front coils, which are all one piece, and on the 350Z, for those people who don't know, on the 350Z you have the back coils. Or essentially you have back struts, which run straight up. But then there's a separate spot that actually has a coil that's like this big, whereas the front coilover is about this big, and it's all in one piece. Mm-hmm. So the back one was missing the whole...
Like, why? I don't know why
it didn't have the spring in it at all.
No.
And then we bought you the new set, and we realized that it still didn't fit because the bushing inside the bucket was missing. So like the spring didn't even engage until we got the bushing that could actually push it up. So
And finally, it works.
yeah, the car ran fine suspension wise once we got everything put back in. But there was just, again, the car is working fine, so you don't think to like go over
That
with
deep into
yeah,
your
yeah, like
inspection.
because when we drove it, it felt fine, but then when we drove it home,
It did not feel fine.
it bottomed out a few times because
So many
because
times.
the suspension couldn't engage.
And that's when I really learned how to drive a stick.
Mm-hmm.
Wait,
You made me drive your car home though.
I drove my car home. You drove into the tag place.
You made me drive your car until we got out of the city. And then
out of the city, and then I took it the rest of the way on 422, which
car.
is a horrible road.
I agree. So that was the first problem. The first problem was you knew how to drive a stick shift, but I'd never made you solely responsible for driving a stick shift. So the main thing with that was like for as far as first car experiences go, you had like a long list because you had your first family car, you had first car that you were responsible for, which I bought you. You bought your own first car, then you bought your own stick shift. So you had like four. I had the Blazer from my dad, and then I bought my own car, which was a stick shift, and I bought my. I think I bought your G. I bought all stick shift cars so far.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, it's not that complicated to drive a stick shift. It's more so just it's an undertaking as a first car to buy a stick shift without having really any knowledge base in it. But
yeah,
it took, like with the Eclipse, I knew how to drive it within the 3 hours it took me to get the car back home. And for you,
I had some practice on yours.
Yeah, you had practice in mine. You had the benefit of like having two cars when you finally got yours.
Right. I wanted to have a reliable daily and then get my project where you were like, you actually didn't have any car.
I went straight into buying the Infiniti.
Yeah, you went straight and bought the G35.
Yeah, but see, the thing with that was
then got your daily.
But I didn't buy it as a project. That was the thing. I bought it as a car that I wanted to buy. I didn't get into it with the intent on going all out with the car. I just knew that it was a car that had a lot of aftermarket support if I wanted to do stuff here and there. So like if I wanted to switch out the wheels or switch out a paint job or body panels, like there was a lot that I could do with it, but I didn't have to. So when I bought the G, I didn't buy it as a project.
And then you later just decided to turn it into a project.
Right. And even within that, I still took my time with it. Like when I switched out the exhaust, it took us a day.
Did you start working on it when you had a daily, backup car?
No, because the things that I was doing wouldn't affect my ability to drive it. So like no project that I did took me off the road.
Why were your projects so fine and mine, like even putting the exhaust into my car, was like more of a project than it was?
Because yours didn't want to line up.
Yeah.
But again, that's exactly my point. Like every project that I did with my car or that my friends helped me do, it was never something that was going to take me off the road. Like when we did the exhaust was involved because we took the headers off. But once that
was like an all night type of job.
But once it was done, it was done. Switching out the rotors and to the drilled and slotted ones, all we had to do is bust off the wheels and then replace the stuff. It wasn't complicated. The suspension stuff we did, it was plug and play, pull this off, put this on. Nothing really took us to a position where it was like, damn, if we don't get this done, you're stuck.
I'm gonna have to drive you to work.
Right. Like I was never in that scenario, so it worked out perfectly where there was no project that I did that was gonna ever put me in danger of not being able to get home. It was only once the engine blew and that I had to go get a legitimate daily.
Oh, that's right. You still didn't have a daily then.
The engine blew.
You started driving my car for a while.
Yeah, I drove your car for like 2-3 weeks, and then went and bought the Subaru. But Yeah, like my car, my G, for the people who've seen it, it did not start off meaning to be what it is now. It started off just being a car that I drove
For fun.
For fun, and it had some pickup, but it wasn't super fast. Didn't have a bunch of engine work to it. It was a stock engine, and I just had fun with what it was. But the main thing.
Oh, you had fun in the snow. You drove it all winter long, and I was like, okay.
But that's the thing. Like, some people are afraid to drive a rear-wheel drive car in the snow. If you know how to drive,
there were some close calls.
Never.
There were some close calls.
I never had an issue with that car in the snow because I knew how to drive. Like, I'd been on racetracks and everything, so like when the car started to get a little tail happy, I knew how to bring it back in.
Mm-hmm.
Like a car getting out of control didn't scare me.
Mm-hmm.
So I was always okay with driving the car in snow. Now, I'm not making that recommendation for people who are listening that you should go buy a rear-wheel drive car for the winter. No, don't do that.
I had the Beamer in the winter.
Yeah, you did. Remember, there was
got stuck.
Yeah, it was like 1 or 2 times where your car actually got stuck, but realistically,
I had the front-wheel drive Eclipse in the winter, and it got stuck. Like, it's.
I mean, but first cars are meant to be that type of interesting.
You learn.
I feel sorry for, again, which goes back to our original conversation. I feel sorry for kids who have so much stuff done for them. And again, you should appreciate when people are willing to do stuff for you, but for people who have no car experience at all, and then just constantly have people come to rescue them when there's a car problem, you're setting people up for that to be the expectation all the time. I mean, how many times, like, there were times when you were pissed at me that I refused to help you with stuff.
Well, so going to what you were saying, like, parents shouldn't just, be like giving them the car and then just taking care of every single responsibility. The way it should be is how you did it with me. Like, you bought me the car, but from then it was my responsibility to take care of it.
And I would help you if I knew it was something you couldn't do. But if it was something that I knew you could figure out, I would tell you, no, you have to figure it out.
And it was frustrating, but I learned a lot.
Well, like, what should I buy, this or this? And I'm like, you'll figure it out.
But there is some input that is okay.
Right, and that's the thing. Like, but again, like, input. There's input and there's reliance, and there are people who rely on those around them before they actually try to solve it themselves. And I didn't want that to be the way you were with car projects, because car projects are meant to be fun, and I didn't want to have 2 car projects, mine and yours. I wanted it to be your car project that I help you with, and my project that you help me with, and we do stuff together. I didn't want to have to kind of walk you through yours while I'm doing mine. Yeah. And at this point now, based off of the years of us doing that, you've gained enough experience where your ability to make those decisions is fully valid, where you are asking my opinion. You're not asking me what you should do.
I understand, yeah.
And
I agree.
And that's how I feel it should be. Like, me and you have gotten to the point now where we can have a conversation about what the next thing should be, or what you want to work on, or what we should do with the car, versus like you asking me, well, what's the difference between this and this, or should I buy this thing or this thing, or is this a better choice or is this a better choice? I'm like, I want to have a conversation, not give a lesson, because that's what my profession is anyway. Like, all I do is tell people what they should do all day. So I wanted to have something where we had like even footing. And granted, you were starting from behind, but I didn't want to always feel like every time we were in the garage together, it was me teaching you something.
I mean, I still feel like there are a good amount of cases where you are showing me, but I feel like I can add more to.
But now I feel like it's a conversation on best practice versus here's how you take this off, here's how you put this on, here's what tool you need.
And there's times that I give you suggestions and you're like, no, I'm going to do it my way.
Now, let's evaluate that part, because here's the other part that goes with that. As we have said, the way my brain works, I will evaluate 12 different routes to take within like 30 seconds. And I'll go, of the 12, here's the best way to do it. And Felicia will go and say, well, why don't we do it this way? Or this way? Or this way? Or this way too? And I'll go, I've already thought about that. No.
It probably would work.
I never say that they wouldn't work. What I say is I've figured out the best solution for all the factors. So like, we only got 2 hours to do this. I don't want to do this thing, which is going to kill an hour and a half before we start. I don't want to do this thing, which is going to put us right at the 2 hour mark if everything goes perfectly. I want to go with this route because this is the most efficient and expedient route for whatever it is that we have to do. Mm-hmm. And then from there, we just keep moving on and get everything to work properly as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
But sometimes it'll be like a debate on what the best way to go forward is, and then from there we end up arguing over that to the point where we can't even do the project anymore.
Well, it's also nice that we have backup cars, so if there is anything that does happen, we can just like leave it as is. And I think it's also nice that our project cars are on the same platform.
Yeah.
So that we like it's the same type of work that you would do on your car versus I would do on my car.
I think the fact that I think right now, especially, you've learned a lot from seeing me do stuff with my car. Mm-hmm. Because a lot of the parts are similar or a lot of the layouts are the same. So you've learned based off of something that didn't go correctly with mine. Mm-hmm. What?
Yeah, you made the mistake, and then with mine,
sometimes
you try to avoid it.
I mean, but like, look at the engine project that I did. Mm-hmm. You saw all the things that went right and wrong with that, and now you're about to do your own engine project, so you're deciding based off of what happened with me what the best way is for you to go forward. Do you want to pull your engine out and have somebody else do the work on it? Do you want to do it yourself? What's the time frame? What's the cost? You've seen how it played out the way I did it, so now you have a reference point on what the next best thing is.
You made the mistake so that I don't have to.
And I wouldn't even say I made the mistake. I just had my own road that I did. Because, like, my stuff still worked out.
Yeah.
So that would be the thing, is, like, when I had certain people working on my engine for me, there were parts that we never factored in, mm-hmm. that now that you're looking at rebuilding your engine, I'm like, oh, you definitely have to get this because I had to get it too and I didn't know.
Right.
So, like, those type of things, because we have the same platform, has definitely made it beneficial in the long run. Mm-hmm. But then there's other projects that we've done where it's like your body panels or your interior. Those are completely...
Oh, yeah, because ours are two completely different styles.
Mm-hmm. And, like, even still, it's such a personalized thing that it would have to be the way you want to do it anyway.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah.
So you got your project car, the G35,
mm-hmm.
2003 G35.
Yep.
And your daily.
Here's a question, though. If keeping all your current experiences and all your current knowledge, is there a different first car that you would pick now?
Like my project car? Or?
No, first car. So not the Jeep, which was given to you by your family.
You mean that I borrowed?
Yeah.
Whenever I was allowed to. So
either the BMW or the Eclipse. I bought you the BMW and you bought yourself the Eclipse. So mm-hmm. knowing what you know now and having the knowledge base you have now, is there a different car or a better car that you would have chosen for that? The project is the project. You still like what you like, but mm-hmm. if you were going to go back and pick a different vehicle to have as you're going back and forth to work.
I mean, I think it also depends on the financial level you're at, because I definitely wasn't making enough money to have the Outlander that I have now. Right. Which I probably would have wanted, four-wheel drive car as the first one, just so I wouldn't have to deal with a lot of issues that I ran into during the winter and stuff. Right. But I did like the Eclipse. It was super fun. I mean, that car had a good amount of pickup on it, and I could keep up fairly well with you. Yeah. It was fun.
I mean, for me, my Infinity was my first car, so it was a fun car and a first car. If I was still gonna have my Infinity, if I was still gonna have my Infiniti as a car that I was gonna still enjoy, and I needed to pick a car that I was just gonna drive, I like the Subaru. I think I would have gotten a different Subaru.
So right now you have the...
The sedan WRX.
What year is it?
2013.
13.
I would have gotten, like, I think I would have gotten the hatch.
I did want the hatch.
Yeah. I think I would have gotten the hatch or the STI hatch, one or the other.
Mm-hmm.
So I still would have like the functionality of it, but I'd have more space to do things with the car. So like if I was going to trade up, and again if I had the money to do it at that point, I would.
Right, because those aren't that.
Right.
You know.
I mean, up until this Subaru that I have now, I never had a car note. I always just held on to the money I made until it was time to buy a car.
Right.
And I would just go pay for the car. Mm-hmm. Which made car projects, by the way, way easier because I didn't have a car note.
Save a good amount of money that way each month.
Yep. So save $5,000, $6,000, $7,000. Go find a used car that I wanted to buy it, and then I didn't have then more money that I had to spend each month. Mm-hmm. So I would probably have gotten the STI or the WRX hatch. I think they look nice. So I would have gotten
an older model.
Similar model, same model.
Okay.
Same model, just a different body style.
Is that considered the Hawkeye?
I think yeah. What I have now is the Hawkeye.
It's the Hawkeye. Okay.
Yeah, so I would have gotten the Hawkeye and a hatch.
Okay.
So I would have more room to do stuff. Like we could have taken trips and not had to like worry about how we're packing and stuff like that. I always thought it was weird that we had a car for hauling stuff around. No.
Well, now I have a sedan.
Right. So yeah, if I was gonna do it different, I would just get a hatch just for space sake because a car is just as fast.
Didn't we take the G one time on a trip?
I drove the G when we went to the beach once.
Yeah.
But that was before all the work had been done to it as well.
Oh, right. So there was probably a lot more space.
Well,
no.
No, there's still
the back seat and the trunk.
Still the same amount of space. The problem with project cars now is if we don't know where we're going, it's tough. You don't want to risk driving a place. Yeah. You don't want to risk driving a place that you haven't been before because you might end up driving across road work that you weren't anticipating, and now because your car is all low or your suspension is stiff, it's a terrible ride.
Your car wouldn't even survive on my drive to work because they've cut up the road to repave.
Exactly.
And there's they cut up both sides. There's no way around that.
Yep. So that's the problem. Is like I would not let myself I wouldn't take that car anywhere I didn't already know. Mm-hmm. So that's always been my concern with like my car now. That's actually why I'm considering doing bags on my car. Mm-hmm. Only because I want to drive the car further, but I don't want to get screwed over on the way and then have to find another way to get there.
But mine's fine. Mine's up. How low is yours?
It's low enough. Like I have trouble.
Is yours 4 inches?
I have trouble getting out of the driveway. Okay,
I can remember if yours was 4 inches or if
I don't remember the measurement exactly, but that's my thing. Like I definitely want to do bags on my car at some point because I have trouble getting out of my own driveway.
I thought you were done after doing the turbo.
No. Yeah, definitely.
I told you wouldn't be done.
No, but I told you that forever ago. Because, I mean, for having such a nice car...
Cars, it's never not a project.
For having such a nice car, it sucks to have... And here's the thing. If we didn't live here, I wouldn't do it.
What do you mean?
If we didn't live at this house where this is a problem, I wouldn't do it.
What, getting out of the driveway?
Correct. I swear, if we lived 2 houses up or 2 houses down, where driving out of my own driveway was not that big a deal, I wouldn't even think about it that much. But because it always happens, my bumper is eventually going to get scratched down to the point where it's visible.
Why don't you just lift it up a little bit more?
Because then the fitment on the wheels doesn't look good.
Oh, it's all about that fitment.
So, again, driving and having my car look like that would make me mad. So having the fitment not the way I want so that I can drive it in and out of the driveway would make me mad.
just like.
Exactly. So, I mean, I think we've done like a solid 40 minutes on here.
Yeah, so you started with Blazer.
Mm-hmm.
Eclipse.
Yep.
Then you got the G35.
Yep.
And the WRX.
Right. And you went
from
Jeep,
borrowing Jeeps
to Beamer,
BMW,
Eclipse 350Z,
350,
Outlander.
I had one more car than you. Well, the first one doesn't really count.
Right.
Borrowing my family's.
All right. So I think we've gotten a good amount in there. I mean, if there's anybody that wants to share what their first car was, put it in the comments, and we'll make fun of them.
No.
I'm joking, but I'm actually interested to hear what like the most popular first car is for some people. So throw that in there if you guys want to, and we'll talk about some of those things at the beginning of our next podcast. Anything else you want to add into it?
I think that covers it.
All right, guys. Thanks for tuning into C3, and we will catch you guys in the next one.
Yeah.